In this video, what I want to introduce you guys to is how to use a city directory to help you research local history. Now, if you don't know what a city directory is, but you do know what a phone book is, a city directory is basically an early version of a phone book. And what they contain was essentially a list of the people who lived in a town and also the list of the businesses that lived in the town. It included the locations of government offices, of important organizations and clubs. Basically, the city directory was kind of this reference book for what existed in your community. And why they're so important to local history, why they're so valuable, is not because they contain information that somebody could have used in 1945 to look up where someone lived then, but for us, what it shows is what people did in those cities during that time period and what amenities and what businesses were located in the city, what amenities the city offered. And essentially, this kind of paints a picture of what the local life was like during this time period. And even more importantly, these directories do is that they have such detailed information about people, is that as you go through the lists of people, and they're listed alphabetically, you can see their addresses, where they lived. You can see their occupations, what they did for a living. And a lot of times, especially in Southern directories, a lot of the companies would put a little asterisk next to someone's name. And what this denoted, this little asterisk, was that the person that was being described was African American. And so, if we use the city directory, that way we can see where African Americans live within the larger local community. And so, that's the best part, or one of the great things about city directories, is that they kind of paint a picture of who's living there and what they're doing. So, let's look at a city directory and how to use it so you guys can use it on your skills packet. So, in our version here, what we're going to do is we are going to go actually to the heritage room of the Marshes of Glen Library in Brunswick. This is the Heritage Room. There's a lot of digital materials that are available for us. Fortunately, the city directories, which are physical books, they're huge books, have been digitized, so they're available online. And what we can do is go into the Marshes of Glen Heritage Room website and scroll down through all the resources they have. And you see the Brunswick City Directories right here. So we'll click on that to get started, which takes us to where the city directories are actually located, which is the Digital Library of Georgia. But the library in Brunswick has a link to it to help us out. And it takes us right to the directories that were made over the years for Brunswick. Now, normally you want to have an idea of where you want to start your research, like what year frame, what time frame. And what you want to do to help you do that, to see what's available, is to sort the directories that are listed online from Brunswick. And you do that by going to the filter, sort by relevance, which is how it's originally arranged. We can change that. And what we want to do is sort it by date. And in this case, we'll sort it by date from oldest to newest. So date oldest first. And that arranges all the directories that are available for Brunswick by year. Starting in 1890, it looks like that's the first one available. And then going through the last one available, there's several pages worth, so we'll click on the last page here. Several years available, decades really available. It looks like it goes up to 1964. So we have a lot of different directories that we can use in our research. But for these purposes, for this research that we're doing now, for the activity for our class, you're only going to use one. And so let's do a quick run through then to show you how to use the directory to help you work on your project and conduct your research. So looking at again at the screen here, it's sorted by relevance. Let's sort by date, oldest first. And because for this project, we're going to have you guys look at the 1890 directory, one of the first ones, or in this case, the first one. We'll use that one. So here it is, 1890, the very first one you come across whenever you sort by date, starting with the oldest. So we'll click on the image. That takes us to another page that gives us a lot of information about the directory, which we don't really need to worry about right now. So we'll skip this and click on the image again. And then what that does is that it downloads this directory, these hundreds of pages, into a PDF, which is fantastic for us because if this were the Stone Age and we just had the physical book, we'd have to then flip through the book hundreds of pages, and that would take hours, if not days, to find the information that we needed. But thanks to the miracle of modern technology, to digitization, that process is much faster and much easier. So because it's a PDF, we can search it. If it were a Word document, we can search it the same way, and not through a Google search or something like that. But you guys know how to probably do this, and that's just by doing a Control Alt F on your computer. So we're going to do that real fast. Control Alt F, and that brings up the search box for our PDF in this case. And whenever you do this for your skills packet, you're going to have a certain term you'll want to search for in the directory corresponding to the question that's being posed. I'm not going to do that for you. I want you guys to do that on your own. And so what we're going to do here is just as an example to show you how this works is that I've thought of an occupation that might give us some results, and that's the occupation of a dentist. So how many dentists were in Brunswick during in 1890, and where do they live? So let's just type it in. Type in the word dentist, enter, and then just like that, magically, the number of dentists listed in the directory appears to be 6. And it takes us to the very first one. Remember, all the names in the directory when it comes to individuals are listed alphabetically. So we start with A here, and we see the first dentist is named D.D. Atkinson. And if we look at the entry for D.D. Atkinson, we can learn a lot about this person. We can learn, number one, that they were a dentist and also their name. And we now know also that there are 6 dentists in Brunswick in the city in 1890. We can see that, I'm assuming Mr. Atkinson works at 303 Monk Street downtown. And if you look at the letter H here, and there are a number of abbreviations, there's a key at the beginning of the directory that I'll put online for you guys that kind of shows you what the abbreviations can mean. In this case, the abbreviation is H. That stands for home, and his home was at 324 South Cochrane Avenue. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. His home was at 609 Union Street. So from this one entry, we know that there was a dentist named D.D. Atkinson who worked at 303 Monk Street, had his office there, and lived on 609 Union Street. Now, if we were to click through the other dentists, the other 5, there's another one, Dr. A.D. Gale, who owned a dentistry called apparently A.D. Gale and Son on 222 and a half Newcastle Street. Also, there's his home address. It looks like also FP, there's his son just below him there. Uh, Again, same information. He lived on Egmont Street. And so you get the idea, right? By being able to understand, knowing what terms you want to look for, what occupations, what street address, or rather, what street. If we know those terms, we can use the directory to find information about those terms, people associated with those terms. And if you look through the other uh, entries on this webpage, you will see that we can see somebody who was a laborer, somebody who was a fisherman. And here we have the asterisk. So we know that Joseph Gale, who was a fisherman who lived on 401 A Street, because of this asterisk, we know that this person was African American. We know that Lucinda Gardner, this right here, who was a laundress, she washed clothes for a living, who lived on Albany Street, was also, again, African American. So we're learning what people did. We're learning their race, not so much their ethnicity here, but their race. And we're learning where they lived at the exact same time. So again, city directories are a great reference, a research reference for us to understand the physical environment of local history of our community, and how people lived and what they did during that time period.